Hi everyone, my name is Kazia Misa, and today I will talk about Aristotle's theory of virtue ethics. Now, this theory is central to Aristotle's ethical philosophy, which emphasizes the development of a good character rather than just following strict rules and focusing solely on the consequences. Now, Aristotle's ethics revolve around virtues, which are character traits that enable a person to live well. Virtue ethics is concerned with the kind of person you become. So, in other words, it's about being rather than just doing. For Aristotle, virtues are character traits or dispositions that allow a person to live well and flourish. Some of these key virtues include wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. And virtues are developed through practice and reflection, and ultimately, they become a natural part of who you are. We become virtuous by repeatedly acting in ways that demonstrate virtues, eventually forming a virtuous character. The ultimate goal in life, according to Aristotle, is to achieve eudaimonia, the good life. Is often translated as flourishing or well-being. It's more than just happiness or pleasure. Eudaimonia means living a good life by making smart choices and developing good habits over time. For Aristotle, a person can only flourish by fulfilling their function as a human being, which is to live rationally and to live virtuously. Aristotle believes that living a good life is about being a morally excellent person consistently across all different aspects of your life. The process of becoming a virtuous person requires practical wisdom, which helps us to know the right thing to do in specific situations. The next topic we'll be going into is, where do morals come from? Now, Aristotle doesn't give us a specific list of actions that determine what's right and what's wrong. Instead, he tells us to act as the virtuous person would and to use practical wisdom to determine what to do. Now, practical wisdom is the ability to reason well about what is good for oneself and others in the context of a particular situation. Ethics require judgment to find the decision which relates to the individual and their circumstance. Now, there's no universal formula for the right thing to do. What's important is how well you can judge the situation, consider who you are, and think about what may happen because of your choice. Now we'll be going into the objections. The first objection is the lack of action guidance. Critics argue that virtue ethics doesn't give a clear guidance on what to do in specific situations, unlike rule-based theories. The first example is, what would you do if someone was to say, should I steal to feed my family? Instead, Aristotle tells us to act as if what the virtuous person would, which would be vague. And virtue ethics can sometimes feel too abstract to offer practical guidance in such cases. The next objection is cultural relativism. There's disagreement on which traits would be considered virtuous among different cultures and time periods. Now, Aristotle, he grew up in the ancient Greek society, and their virtues included traits like honor, loyalty, and courage in warfare. So what might be considered in one culture may not be seen as virtuous in another. So I'm Ghanaian, and I'm raised in a Ghanaian household, and some of our virtues include hospitality and just embracing our community. And the United States, some of their virtues include on self-reliance and justice. And so I could see how those two, virtues could clash. And then also there's conflict between virtues. It's not always clear on how to resolve conflicts between different virtues in a given situation. For example, honesty may conflict with kindness in some cases. So if my friend has an outfit that's not nice, and I need to tell them, I need to be honest, but how can I do that in a way that's kind? So it may clash, Just to conclude off, Aristotle's virtue ethics provides a rich framework for thinking about morality in terms of character and personal growth. However, the lack of clear rules and its potential for cultural relativism are its noticeable weaknesses. Despite these challenges, Aristotle's theory it has a big influence on us today, encouraging us not only what we do, but who we are becoming. Hi everyone, my name is Kazia Misa, and today I'll be discussing the social contract theory. Now, the social contract theory is a major concept in political philosophy, which individuals agree to form societies and establish governments in order to escape the chaos of a state of nature. It suggests that social rules and moral codes are not inherent, so people must create agreements for their mutual benefit. So the two most influential figures are Tom Hobbes and John Locke. They provide different visions of why and how these agreements arise, so I'm just going to compare them and break them down. So Thomas Hobbes believed that in a state of nature, a world without government, life would be poor, nasty, short, brutish, solitary, and hard. And this is because humans, motivated by self-interest and the desire to survive, will be in constant competition. And in this state, they would have the right to do anything, which also includes harming others for survival. He believes that the state of nature is chaotic and dangerous. And it's a condition where people live free, but they're also living in constant fear. They're also living in constant conflict. To escape this constant state of fear, individuals agree to form a government, surrendering some of their freedoms in exchange for protection. Hobbes believes in a strong centralized government or authority, a monarch or a sovereign, to maintain peace and prevent the return of the state of nature. Now, John Locke had a much more optimistic view of human nature. He believed that people in the state of nature are generally rational and are able to coexist peacefully. However, the absence of an impartial authority could lead to conflicts over property and rights. Now, a state of nature, a condition of equality and freedom where individuals are governed by natural laws. People form a government not to escape total chaos, but to better protect their natural rights, especially their property rights. So Locke argued for a government with limited power and exists to serve the people. Let's say this government becomes anti-democratic. The citizens have a right to overthrow it. For Locke, natural laws, also known as ethics, already determine what is good or bad, and the role of the government is to uphold these existing rights. Now, ethical egoism is an ethical theory that argues that each person ought to act in their own self-interest. Now, Hobbes believed that in the state of nature, people are already primarily motivated by self-preservation, and Locke's theory, on the other hand, leans less towards ethical egoism. He emphasizes the protection of everyone's rights, suggesting a broader concern for the well-being of others. Now we'll be going into the objections of the social contract theory. The first one is the reality of the contract. Critics argue that the social contract theory is not an actual historical event, but more of a theoretical construct. No one really agreed to be governed, so if the contract never occurred, can it really justify the authority of the government? And this is especially relevant in communities where people feel like the government is oppressing them. And an example I can give is the BLM movement. And the second objection is exclusion of non-participants. The social contract theory assumes that everyone participates or agrees in this contract. What about those who cannot or do not want to participate? Some examples include children, disabled people, or even animals. If the contract only protects those who are capable of rational consent, it leaves out many groups who are vulnerable and still need this protection. Now, there's some objections to ethical egoism. The first one is conflicts of interest. Ethical egoism assumes that everyone should act in their own interest, but this can lead to direct conflicts between individuals, because what if two people have the same self-interest? For example, if two people want a limited resource like a job, ethical egoism doesn't really provide a clear resolution. And the second objection is undermining cooperation. Now, ethical egoism says that we should operate on self-interest, but many do argue that societies thrive better when we cooperate. If everyone always acted selfishly, trust and cooperation would break down, leading to chaos, ironically resembling Hobbes' state of nature. So the social contract theory explains how government and rules are made through agreement, with Hobbes wanting a stronger government and Locke preferring limited government. But both are criticized for their ideas about people and right or wrong. Thank you.